The video is about Roaddog's Juke joint. For years, way over 10, Roaddog's Juke joint has existed in some form. And I guess I was at church a couple of weeks ago, and it's been my screensaver for my laptop for multiple amount of years also. So as I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation, Roaddog's Juke joint is up on a big screen TV. So of course, you know, some of the saints had raised the eyebrows, Juke joint, and I didn't feel like telling the story, but now I'm going to tell the story to the camera. First Roaddog, and then we'll get to Juke joint. When a lot of people grow up, particularly in the hood, they have nicknames. One day, Tony Cothran and I were out at lunch, and we started talking about the neighborhood, and somehow people's names came up, and we started talking about nicknames and strange nicknames. And I ended up naming over like 100 people from the neighborhood that had nicknames. All kinds. That's a video for another story. But anyway, I didn't have a nickname growing up. I was always Mark King. That was it. In junior high school, for a brief amount of time, I was called Shotgun, whatever. But it didn't stick. So I go to college and I come home, and it's 1976, and I buy a Cutlass Supreme out of the showroom at Crisconi Oldsmobile down in South Philly. And I had bought another little junky car before that, but that was my first real car. And I'm about 19 years old when I bought the car. And we started, me and my homies, you know, we started riding around. We would go places, go visit college campuses, trying to catch up with co-eds or any parts of the city. And but in the city and outside the city, I was still going back and forth to Penn State to see Earlene, Renee, party, whatever. So between a couple of guys of my crew, Tippy, Charlie, and my main man Bub, they started calling me Roaddog somehow because we was always hitting the road. So it kind of stuck, but not many people, I would say less than 10 people, would even call me Roaddog during the course of time. But it's been like somewhat of a nickname for me, Roaddog. The Juke joint. As Daryl and I were coming up in our 20s, and we also venturing out and hitting bars and stuff, we would go to different bars and just notice the decor. And if it was made of a lot of wood, the type of crowds that they had, how the bartender or the female bartender or male bartender, how they treated people. And between him and I, we would talk about if we had owned a bar, what it would be like. Because we spent so much time and money in bars. So we both thought that we would be good bartenders because we like to talk, we like people, and we just like the activity. In addition to that, going back to a couple of famous movies, like in the movie Life, when Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy, they would talk about Ray's Boom Boom Room. They were locked up in a prison doing a life sentence, but I think it was Eddie Murphy who talked about owning Ray's Boom Boom Room. And that was an integral part, and that kept him going. And then he would tell the story of Ray's Boom Boom Room to the other inmates, and they would sit and they would fantasize because they're locked up in this Mississippi, Alabama prison, and they would just fantasize about what Ray's Boom Boom Room would be like. In Eddie Murphy also in Harlem Nights, he was Sugar Ray's was the after hours spot where they would go and they would gamble and they would have entertainment and cocktails and all the things that was going on in Ray's, Sugar Ray's. And even in The Color Purple, Harpo's. You know, Harpo's was a juke joint as well. When I went to Arkansas for the training, you know, it was almost like me being in prison. But I had my man, the brother was named Taylor, last name was Taylor, and he was from St. Louis. And me and him would venture out and go down in Little Rock, Arkansas, just to get away from the school and all. And but also on the weekend, this station in Arkansas played the blues, like on Saturday mornings. They had like 4 hours of the blues, and I became a captive audience for the blues, and I really liked it, and it led me to the blues. You know, it's that back home, somebody's stealing your woman, and we got these juke joints and we drinking and whatnot and all this partying and good time. And so I came out with the juke joint concept. Also Quincy Jones, Q's Juke Joint was one of my favorite albums as well. So you get Roaddog's and then you get Juke Joint. And so when I'm on Allison Street, I would say on Fridays from 4 to 7 was Roaddog's Juke Joint. That's when it was open. Now mind you, nobody's home but Deborah and I, and Deborah's doing her own thing. So she may be up in the bedroom by watching TV, doing whatever she's doing, and I'm telling her that people are going to come over to the juke joint and we're going to party and we're going to be downstairs partying. And she was just saying, yeah, whatever, man. And so that's how that went. So I would be a party of one with Roaddog's Juke Joint. And then in the summertime, we had the backyard fixed. I had bought all this patio furniture and barbecue grills, and still I would have Roaddog's Juke Joint even though nobody came. Occasionally Marcus would come over and he would sit with me and we would enjoy the music, blast the music back in the backyard. So sometimes it'll be a party for two, but for the most part it's just all been in my head, Roaddog's Juke Joint. And now that I'm here on Jefferson Street, I'm continuing to have the juke joint on Fridays from 4 to 7, even if it's just in my head. But I have refreshments, and sometimes it's party music, sometimes it's the blues, but Roaddog's Juke Joint, and that's the saga.
Taylor still the favorite, and Bobby Bland still the blues. $5 you've got to pay just Just a jukebox and no DJ. Just a jukebox and no DJ. The smaller the club, the bigger the party. Something about this room. The smaller the club, the better the party. The dance floor, you can barely move. Waitress, please clean my table. Big cans everywhere. Music's loud and everybody dancing, yeah. Party up in here. There's a hell of a party up in here. Oh yeah. You gotta stand in line to get a drink. You gotta wait outside. You gotta wait outside just to get a peep. Everyone loves a smaller club. You might meet someone there and fall in love. The smaller the club, the bigger the party. Something about this room, yes it is. The smaller the club, the better the party. The dance floor, you can barely move. The smaller the club, the bigger the party. Something about this room, yes it is. The smaller the club, the better the party. The dance floor, you can barely move. Johnny Taylor is still the favorite, and Bobby Bland still the blues. $5 you've got to pay. Just a jukebox and no DJ. Just a jukebox and no DJ. Beer cans on the table. Cigarette smoke, cigarette smoke, cigarette smoke in the air. Yes it is. Music's loud and everybody dancing, yeah. There's a hell of a party. There's a hell of a party up in here. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Smaller the club, the bigger the party. Something about this room, yes it is. The smaller the club, the better the party. The dance floor, you can barely move. Hey, come on. Ooh, they backed up in here. Yeah, they up in here, pal. But what I want to know is, how does all those people get on that small dance floor? They get out there, man. They're waiting outside in front, trying to get in line too, you know, just to get a peep to see what's going on up in here. Yeah, but it's on. Let me tell you again. Smaller the club, the bigger the party. Something about this room. Something about this room. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. The smaller the club, the better the party. The dance floor, you can barely move. The dance floor, you can barely move. Somebody said one more time. The smaller the club, the bigger the party. Smaller the club, the bigger the party. Something about this room. Something about this room. Smaller the club, the better the party. The dance floor, you can barely move. The dance floor, you can barely move. Smaller the club.
Baby. A wop bop loop bop wop bamboo tutti frutti, oh booty, tutti frutti, oh booty, tutti frutti, oh booty, a wop bop